my name is Kate Scarlatta. I'm a registered dietitian that practices outside of Boston at my practice for a digestive peace of mind. And I'm here today with...
Hello, I'm Tony Fiore. I'm also a registered dietitian that works here with Kate.
So today we thought we would just introduce kind of the concept of the low FODMAP diet and just review some of the basics. So let's start with what the heck's a FODMAP, right? FODMAP is an acronym and it stands for fermentable oligosaccharides. Don't worry, I'm getting a little sciencey. Disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. And these are basically short chain, very small carbohydrates that are commonly malabsorbed. And when they're malabsorbed, they tend to pull water into the gut and they're rapidly fermented by our gut bacteria. And that can contribute to symptoms in individuals that have a sensitive gut, such as those with irritable bowel syndrome. FODMAPs innately, the types of foods that contain FODMAPs are healthy. So restricting them unnecessarily is not really a good idea. What we want to do is get patients to modify their FODMAPs if they have a sensitive stomach, just to their personal tolerance and to really enjoy the most liberal diet they can. So just to backtrack a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the individual subtypes. So oligosaccharides, and again, you don't need to know that term, includes fructans and galacto-oligosaccharides. And these are water-soluble fibers, and they're found commonly in foods like onions and beans and wheat and garlic, and other foods as well. D in FODMAPs is disaccharide, and it refers to lactose. Not everyone malabsorbs lactose, but quite a few people do. In fact, worldwide, it's up to 70% have a reduction in the enzyme that helps our body break down lactose. Again, you may malabsorb lactose and not feel a thing, or you may malabsorb lactose and feel a lot of things. For those that are sensitive to lactose in the diet, that's restricted on the low FODMAP diet. And then we have M, the M in FODMAPs, and that stands for monosaccharide or excess fructose. And excess fructose is found in foods like honey and agave syrup, mango, watermelon, and other foods as well. High fructose corn syrup is really a big one. And
Sneaks in a lot.
It sneaks in a lot of foods. And then P is polyols, and this is sugar alcohols that are found added to things like sugar-free gum and mints, but then also found naturally in foods as sorbitol and mannitol. And foods that contain sorbitol include most of the stone fruits, peaches, plums, and also apples and pears. And then mannitol is found in things like celery and sweet potato and cauliflower and mushrooms. Not all mushrooms, though. Oyster mushrooms are low in mannitol, which is great. So for more information about what foods contain FODMAPs or don't, you can check out katescarlatta.com and check out the high and low FODMAP lists, or refer to the Monash University Low FODMAP Diet app, which you can get in Android and iPhone versions. Or I have a FODMAP grocery guide app, and that also provides information and shopping tips to help guide you on this diet. So there's lots of resources out there. The low FODMAP diet, I promise Tony's going to speak today.
I'm into
The low FODMAP diet is really a three-tiered approach diet. So the first phase is the elimination phase, and that's where we remove all the high FODMAP foods. And the second phase is what's called the reintroduction phase, and that is when we put the FODMAPs back into the diet in a very systematic manner to really help the patient identify what FODMAPs might be triggers for them. And then the last phase is the integration phase, and that's when we gently put back the FODMAP foods that the patient tolerated in the reintroduction or re-challenge phase. And we do that gently onto their plate to see how they tolerate the various foods back. The goal, again, can't reiterate it enough, the patient should enjoy the most liberal diet they can without having symptoms.
And I know that's hard. I think when people finally find something that makes them feel better and control their symptoms, they often don't want to reintroduce, so they've been on it for a couple years. We don't want that. There's a reason behind that. We want you to be able to have some, why restrict if you don't have the
Exactly.
symptoms? So we feel your pain, but we still want to push you.
Exactly. And you know what, since we're talking about that, let's talk about why the diet isn't long-term.
So the FODMAP foods, when you eliminate them, they may decrease probiotic bacteria, which is the healthy bacteria for us. And also removing FODMAPs can decrease the acid in the stool. It increases the pH, which decreases the acid. And I just want an excuse to remove it, which could allow potentially more pathogenic bacteria to overgrow, which we don't want, correct?
Exactly. Interestingly, in 2 studies, the diversity of microbes increased with the low FODMAP diet. So that's a potential positive. We've also seen that some inflammatory compounds reduce on the low FODMAP diet, and that is being further researched, the benefit of that. So I think the reality is we don't really know. It is an evolving science, and the low FODMAP story continues to kind of evolve. What I wanted to mention is the low FODMAP diet's used, not for everyone, right? So who would be some patients or people, what kind of disorders would potentially benefit from the low FODMAP diet?
So we mostly see our patients from irritable bowel syndrome as the big patient population, but also inflammatory bowel disease, which is important to note. We do get some referrals with those patients, but it's important to remember that, like Kate said, the inflammation piece we don't know about, right? So inflammatory bowel disease patients have similar digestive
like IBS-like
symptoms going on, so it can reduce the symptoms, which makes your quality of life better, I would say.
Absolutely.
So I think what that brings us to is maybe have that discussion with your GI doctor. Discuss with them, I'm uncomfortable, what diet could I possibly benefit from the low FODMAP diet? And another thing that we discuss in our office is, the GIs have their own check list going on, what to test you for. And celiac disease is a big piece of that. You want to rule out if you have celiac disease first.
Before you start the
diet, or just have that discussion again. And the low FODMAP diet may reduce the amount of gluten that you're eating from day to day, which could affect the test.
Exactly. So in a snapshot, we would want anyone that thought about doing the diet to talk with their doctor first to make sure that screening tests have been done prior to changing the diet, because as Tony mentioned, reducing FODMAPs reduces gluten. It's not a gluten-free diet, but it does reduce it. And that would make any blood tests or biopsies really not potentially accurate. So always talk to your doctor before you change your diet. So we've got IBS patients that would benefit, inflammatory bowel patients that maybe have ongoing IBS-like symptoms, which is quite common in that population, celiac patients that don't completely resolve on a gluten-free diet may benefit from the low FODMAP diet as well. We see that in clinical practice. And also patients with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is not evidence. It's not an evidence-based diet, because there is no evidence-based diets for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, but this has overlapping symptoms, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and IBS. So those patients may also benefit. And lastly, there is some kind of interesting emerging research looking at the low FODMAP diet for athletes. Now, this would be a very different application. It wouldn't be really low FODMAP elimination diet, really restrictive, but it might be just pulling out some big FODMAPs that might be triggering some symptoms, because especially in runners, there's something called runner's trots, which is a running-induced diarrhea. And the low FODMAP diet may help prior to the event, reducing the FODMAP load, which would potentially reduce the advent of diarrhea and help the runner really enjoy the run instead of running to the loo.
That brings up a good point too. If you see that we're talking about so many different types of people going on right here. So the low FODMAP diet should be done with an expert with the low FODMAP diet.
Absolutely.
Because you can tailor it depending on your symptoms, depending on your energy expenditure.
Right, exactly. If you're a runner and you're burning up, 3,000 to 4,000 calories, being on a very restrictive diet is
Low carb.
Yeah, not a good idea. So you would really want to work with a registered dietitian to help guide you. And I have a registry on katescarlotta.com, and you can just to find a dietitian that has some expertise in this diet. So moving on, I thought it would be fun to just talk about like our particular favorite low FODMAP breakfast, lunch, and dinner, some of the things that we talk about. I follow a modified low FODMAP diet because I've had intestinal surgery, so I can talk a little bit about what works for me. But, what are some recommendations for breakfast that you recommend for your patients?
Favorite breakfast? I'm a big fan of using whole foods, like especially when it comes to the carbohydrates. So rather than going for maybe a gluten-free bread, or I would go for potato. So one of my favorite breakfasts are like over easy eggs in the pan with those Simply potatoes.
Yes.
That you can buy from the frozen section, and you just kind of put them on the griddle. It's great.
I love that. I actually had that for dinner. For lunch yesterday. I did. And we had leftover baby red skin potatoes, so I just did that in the skillet with the eggs. And then the Alfresco chicken bacon is pretty good for FODMAP content, so I just chopped that up and put it in. It was like so good. I love that. Omelets are a great breakfast. I tend to do oats with a little bit of fruit and chia seeds and some walnuts, and I love that for breakfast as well. What about lunch?
I think that's a conversation I have a lot with my patients if you're traveling to work. So one of my favorite things to do is make a batch of quinoa. Again, going for that whole foods approach. I like quinoa cold with some olive oil, garlic infused maybe, and you can drizzle it on. You can sprinkle it on a salad with some chicken.
I love that. Nice and balanced too. You got the healthy fat, the carb, the protein, the produce.
Dietitian sticker on.
Love it. Dietitian approved. I tend to love salads myself, and I'm a potato. I think it's the Irish heritage. I'll do cold potatoes, or just heat up a half of a sweet potato. But I like a nice salad left to my own devices. I'll also get sourdough bread. I love Iggy's Francisi bread. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but I'll do that with a little cheddar cheese and some arugula and tomato, and make a sandwich, and then maybe have a little cantaloupe or some strawberries on the side. So that's really super yummy. Sometimes I'll have potato chips. Don't tell anyone. I'm kind of a potato chip queen.
I know.
I know. Dinner.
My favorite dinner would definitely be throwing veggies and some chicken on the grill. I think everyone can enjoy a nice grill night. Zucchini, eggplant, whatever you got in the fridge. Bell peppers.
Absolutely.
What about you?
We do a lot of grilled salmon. I just love salmon. It's so healthy for you, omega-3 fats. So we'll do that on the grill. I love it with jasmine rice, and then either sauteed green beans or like some grilled veggies as well, low FODMAP vegetables.
You like the grill, I think.
Love the grill. I know. Whenever possible. Either that, or I'll do like seared in a pan too. And I love roasted vegetables in the wintertime with a little garlic infused oil. And I'll make a big batch of those and just pop that on a salad too, like for lunch. How about favorite dining out meal?
Dining out, I'd have to say I love being able to do like a bunless burger. Even though, even if you weren't following a low FODMAP diet, I like the bunless burger because you can get your starch from the French fries. So I always ask, do you have garlic and onion in the burger patty or the fries? But most of the time you can get a nice tasting meal without the FODMAPs.
Exactly. And another question to ask too, because sometimes they'll do those really kind of crunchy fries that might have wheat in them. So I might ask too about the French fries. I like a nice like homemade cut French fry. Love it. So I often will get salad out. I love lemon, so I'll just ask for some wedges of lemon and drizzle olive oil on the salad. It's so yummy. A lot of salad dressings do have garlic and onion, so you want to be careful when ordering salad dressings out. I would say don't do that and maybe opt for red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar, and olive oil, or fresh lemon is one of my faves. A lot of places, like even Panera, if that's near you, have lemon wedges out next to the iced tea, so you can just grab the lemon there. Tip. Okay, so last but not least, I wanted to talk for a couple other things. One of them was just when you feel lousy, you've kind of overindulged. I always kind of feel a little bit off after travel sometimes. Trying to get the diet back in gear and just calm down. What are some things we might do?
Soup is always a go-to. The chicken.
The chicken with rice, turmeric.
It's on her blog. It's delicious. Cooked down veggies, so you get that nutrition without the mechanical digestion yourself.
Absolutely. So those really kind of rough, raw vegetables can kind of irritate the colon. So cooked vegetables tend to be a little bit easier on the gut. Soups can have onion and garlic, so stick with the soup recipes on my blog or other low FODMAP options. Fody Foods has a low FODMAP. I'm a client, so I just disclaimer. But they do have some vegetable and chicken stock powdered that you can start as a soup starter,
and that makes
it easy
to keep in your pantry.
Absolutely. So we missed our favorite cocktail. Should we back up? Hello.
We missed that. So, of course, champagne. I gotta go with champagne.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have, depending on where you are, the brunches or the parties that you go to, they have like little berries and stuff you can float in there.
I love that. Me too. So I would say champagne too, but this summer, I think being a Maine girl in the summer, I'm really loving the blueberry infused vodka with a little muddled blueberries and just a splash of lemonade. Just be careful the lemonade doesn't have high fructose corn syrup, but a lot of them don't, and yum. Okay, so last but not least, we were going to talk about some brand name foods that we like. We're big on whole foods. Tony's mentioned that several times in this video, and we're going to push that obviously first, but sometimes you're running out the door, and I know when I'm traveling on a plane, I'm not going to probably bring a baked potato with me. I don't know. Maybe I should. What are some things that we might grab and go? So I thought I would just start with a couple snacks that I bring with me when traveling. I love these little miniature packs of Snyder's gluten-free pretzels. They're really yummy, and everyone loves them. They're just crunchy and super
they're better
good.
than the regular ones.
I know. I agree with you. And the other favorite is the Fody snack bars. So we really love these. I kind of rely on these in the office sometimes for a quick pick-me-up. And then these little Fody trail mix. So cute. And just like nuts and little bits of chocolate and dried fruits, but they're perfectly portioned for the FODMAPper, so we really do love those. But I wanted to mention some other things, like favorite crackers. What are some crackers you recommend with your patients?
I think my go-to would be the Blue Diamond. Has these original nut thins,
Yeah,
the almond, and then I think there's the pecans as well, the original. You don't want to get the ones with the flavoring, but they're yummy and they're made with good ingredients. I like that with, cheese or something like
that. Definitely. Cheese, some grapes, really nice. With the Smokehouse almond nut thin crackers do have onion, so there are some like ranch flavored. Just pay attention so you're not getting those.
The original's still good.
The originals are good. We like that. And then what about like cookies? Do you have a favorite?
Of course, I have a favorite cookie. Tate's. I love Tate's gluten-free chocolate chip cookies. They're crunchy and hard, but they're really good in coffee.
Yeah, they also have a ginger one that is very good.
Soothing.
Yes, soothing for the gut. Ginger is good for the gut. Ginny Bakes also has some little cookies that are really cute. Chocolate chip particularly I like. And they're gluten-free as well. And flour blends. I wanted to talk a little bit about flour blends. I do a lot of gluten-free baking for the blog, and I really enjoy using the King Arthur multi-purpose gluten-free flour. They also, it does not have any gums in it, and gums aren't FODMAP, xanthan gum, and guar gum, but they can cause GI symptoms in some patients. The advantage of having those gums in a flour product is it does give a good texture to the final product. So if you're not sensitive to them, by all means, King Arthur has another gluten-free product, flour blend called it's Measure for Measure flour. And that does have a little gum. So for things you really need texture, cakes, muffins, that kind of thing, that flour blend might work. And then Trader Joe's also has a gluten-free blend, and that seems to work well, and the ingredients appear suitable for those on the low FODMAP diet. So lastly, if you're looking for recipes, you can always go to my blog at katescarlotta.com, and also follow both of us on Instagram, because we all often post what we're eating or low FODMAP inspirations there. And you can find me on Instagram at katescarlotta, and Tony.Fiore. Awesome. So I think that's it for today. I hope you learned a little something, and we look forward to our next digestive health talk coming soon.
Thanks for joining us.